you as woman is the greatest threat to the status quo.
Welcome everyone to the 2021 6th Annual Black Sustainability Summit. My name is Maya Jolie and I will be moderating the session. A few things before we get started. Please mute your microphones. We are going to record this session, so please mute to eliminate all background noise. As you join the call, we would love to know where you are from the room, so please drop your name and your location. We'd like to give a big thank you to all of our sponsors, and I am about to introduce our speaker of tonight, Ms. Kamilah Sanders. Kamilah Sanders is a founder and CEO of Greater Than Equal and an international vision-based leader, consulting and marketing strategy agency. Her agency specializes in making impact easy for her creative social impact founders and uses a system to change the disrupt in the fashion industry to supply a sustainable, equitable model. She is an award-winning professional with 20 years of experience in marketing and executive leadership. So with no further ado, let's welcome Ms. Kamilah Sanders, and you may begin presenting your screen.
Thank you. Hold on one sec. Okay, so thanks everyone for coming. The title of this is called Don't Brace for Impact, Embrace Impact. And the reason why I titled it that is because I work with a lot of social impact organizations, and you saw some organizations on one side saying, okay, if we just keep status quo and doing things as normal, and I'm talking about last year, 2020, and even this year, how everything has shifted, whether it's technology, whether it's people being more aware of like racial equity and all those different issues. And so some organizations and people were like, okay, if I don't do anything and just continue status quo, then everything's going to be great. And then other organizations were like, yes, I'm glad people know about these issues. I'm sure everyone in this room is like, there's a lot of transition, but I want to take this and I want to be able to use this new awareness to make more of an impact on the world. And so we'll talk about embracing impact, meaning taking a more proactive approach. What are the things that you can do as an individual or as an organization to take a more proactive approach on embracing impact? And we'll touch on, so there's so many different things that you could do within your organization specifically, but I think I've seen throughout my journey on wanting to make an impact on the world, and when I talk to other founders that are in the social impact space, there's key things that you can do. And so we'll talk about leaning into your strengths, we'll talk about limiting beliefs, and then we'll also talk about vision. And let me share my screen. I'll tell you a little bit just about myself, my organization, and then we'll get into the session. And there may be a couple of breakout rooms too. And just so you know, like this is interactive. So please feel free to put things in the chat too, if you want. Okay, so I am going to share my screen. Okay, tell me if you can see this okay. You can put, if you can't, just let me know in the chat or just unmute. But you should be able to see a presentation, and we'll not stay on. What'd you say? You can see it okay? Okay, good. Perfect. Okay. So who am I? So we mentioned this some, but I help creative social impact founders maximize their impact through leadership and marketing strategy and consulting. And my background really is in corporations, anywhere from international corporations to smaller nonprofits. I worked in financial services, fashion, sustainable tech, and arts. And my background, we mentioned, is 20 plus years in marketing. So anything and everything in marketing, right? And I'll talk a little bit about my journey, but one of the reasons why I got into the social impact space and I started doing consulting was just because I saw that founders didn't necessarily have all the resources that they needed as far as reaching out to volunteers or their board, or even connecting with their community, and then also coming up with strategies that are really going to help move the needle forward, or move the organization forward. And so I figured I could help more people doing consulting work. So I typically work with founders in the areas of sustainable fashion, art, equity, climate justice. And my approach, and you'll see this as we start talking, is it's vision-based, whole person. Vision-based meaning that you have to start with why you are doing what you're doing. You start with a vision, and we'll talk more about that. And then whole person, because what I see is that it's not just about the organization. It's also about what else happens in your life. It's also about who you are. Once you marry those two, you can have an excellent exponential impact in everything that you do. So I think, when we start talking about like self-care and, things like that, we start to realize like, it's not just about the business, it's about you as a person too. So my organization, Greater Than Equal, we're focused on the fashion industry supply chain. Of course, I mentioned leadership development and marketing strategy that we do. We're also proponents for tech and entrepreneurship, and storytelling, meaning anything from events or podcasts, or what we can do to shift the narrative among citizens. And also collaboration, creating a collaborative ecosystem in the fashion industry. And so with this presentation, there is a worksheet that comes with it. And I can actually, if you scan this QR code, it's going to bring up a Google form. And if you fill out that Google form, it'll send you the whatever email address you put in, it'll send your answers to you afterwards. But I can also put a link in the chat for you. And if you don't have, let's see, chat. If you don't have access, if you can't get the QR code to work, typically you just open up the picture part of your phone if you have a smartphone, and it'll pull it up. But I'll also put the links to the PDF in the chat. And if you can't get to any of these, that's okay. We can send it to you afterwards. And you can just follow along as I talk and use a regular sheet of paper and a pen or a pencil. And you can do it that way. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave that up for a second, and then I'm going to stop sharing. Because I want, okay. So let's talk about strengths, right? So when I was in corporate, right? And I was trying to figure out what my next move was. So I worked for a great company, and I was like, I want to make more of an impact on the world, because when you work for a corporation, nothing wrong with it. And they, definitely can have an impact, but it always comes down to the bottom line. It's not necessarily about people first, it's about profit, right? And so for me personally, I wanted to move to something else that was, had more of a meaning for me. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to go to nonprofits. But the first thing that I asked myself was, or what people typically ask is like, what would you do if you didn't have any barriers? If you didn't have, if you had unlimited funds, like what would you be doing with your life, right? And so I want you to answer that question, either writing down on a piece of paper, maybe even putting it in the chat. And the answer to this question for me at the time was, well, and this is why I don't necessarily like this question, is I'm like, if I could do anything, like I would be on a beach, I would go shopping, you know? And so I'm like, that's I can't make money doing those things. So that doesn't necessarily help me, but it does give me a clue to what I want to do in my life. So later on, I realized that when I was shopping, I was looking at brands and I was looking at how clothes were made and I was researching the makers. And so for me, that was more about appreciating art than anything. But I found that out longer down the line. So answer that question. That's going to give you a clue. And the other question, the next question is, what are you good at? What do your friends say you're good at? What are the different things that bring you joy, right? So start to write some of these things down. And the important thing about this, why it's so important about what your strengths are, is because when you lean into your strengths, you get exponential return. And I'll give you an example. For me personally, I'm an extrovert. I know everyone isn't. But when I went to the nonprofit / fundraising position that I went to, I knew that I love to meet new people and network with people. And so when I was raising money, that was primarily what I was focused on doing, was who can I meet with? Who can I talk to? I was really good at connecting with people. And so I leaned in on that and I could see exponential results. Versus someone else, they may have the same task or the same outcome that they want, but they are like, no, I'm going to be in the office, I'm going to call people, I might write emails like that. Even though I can do that, like that's not where my strengths lie. Like I don't want to write emails all day. I don't want to do that. But some people do, and that's fine. But the point is that you lean into the areas that you're really good at. If you're really good at organizing and administrative and things like that, you can still accomplish your goals in an exponential way, but you do it according to your strengths, right? And so that's why it's so important to figure out what your strengths are. And then also, if you're a leader and you're over people or you're serving people, then that's one of the things that you can get more out of the people that you work with by recognizing what their strengths are and helping them to lean into their strengths. And so we're going to do a breakout. It's going to be, we can do just one-on-one. Let me share my screen so I can tell you what we'll talk about in the breakout session. Okay, so this is a breakout and it's going to be focused around your strengths. So for it, of course, introduce yourself. I think it's, a lot of times when you come to these summits, especially online, you don't necessarily get to connect with as many people. So this is your chance to do that. But introduce yourself and what you do. And then tell a story about a challenge that you overcame. So this could be in your organization or in your work, what you do now, or it could be a story from your childhood. It could be anything. We'll do it for 10 minutes. So, not a long story, but just talk about a challenge that you overcame. And as you're talking, the other person in the room is going to write down the strengths and the skills that they think you have based on your story, right? So it might be like, wow, you're really loyal to your friends. Or, wow, you're really good at, connecting with people, the example that I chose. And so the other person will write down the strengths that they think that you have. And then you'll share that with the other person. You'll share the strengths and the skills with the other person that you got based on their story. And then you'll switch roles and the other person will tell the story and do the same thing for you. And I think it really helps because a lot of times you can write down your strengths, but it's really cool to have the viewpoint of someone from the outside looking in. And so we'll do breakouts for 10 minutes, and I'll put the instructions in the chat, and it'll be one-on-one. Maya, are you leading
I'm not seeing anything.
Are you leading the breakouts? Are you doing the breakouts, Maya?
Yes, it's not giving me an option to create breakout rooms.
Let's see. Okay, I think I can do it. Let me do it. Okay, you should see the link. And I'm gonna put this in the chat. Everyone is in breakout rooms right now, but they should be coming back shortly.
Okay, thanks.
Tammy and Maya, I don't know if the breakout rooms were timed or not. But if they're not, I'll just request to get them back shortly, because I think it's almost 10 minutes. So I just put the links to the, okay. Oh, okay. I just put the links to the worksheet in the chat if you can access it. It's a link to the Google form. A Google form, it'll allow you to fill out the worksheet and then it sends it to you right afterwards, or there's a PDF of the worksheet. And if you don't have the worksheet, that's absolutely fine. You can just write down the answers to any of the questions so you have it for your own notes. So we have everyone back. That's great. Okay, so I hope you got a good conversation out of that and talked about some of your strengths. And I also put the links again to the worksheet in the chat too. And so I'm going to ask you an action question now that you've, if for those that are just joining us, we talked about the importance of leaning into your strengths. So thinking about some of the strengths that you have, whether that's connecting with people or what. And so the action question for anyone, you can put in the chat or just think to yourself or write it down, is what steps are you going to take to lean into your strengths? So that might be thinking, oh, I need to get a new job, or it might be like, oh, I can do this better, what I'm doing in my personal life, or even in my work life, where I can lean into this strength and do this better and get exponential results. So feel free to write it down or put it in the chat. Either one is fine. So we're going to move on to limiting beliefs. And this one, we're not going to do a breakout on. I think it's helpful for us to kind of share. We won't share it aloud, but maybe if you could share in the chat. So one of the bigger things that along my journey and when I talk to a lot of social impact organizations is limiting beliefs, right? And I think all of us have kind of heard of that. You know, what are your beliefs and how do you overcome them? And so what I want you to do with this question, and since we have, hold on, if those of you that have joined the room, I'm going to put it in there, the link to the worksheet in the chat again, because I think if you just join it, it just comes up. But if you don't have a worksheet, you can just answer the questions either in the chat, or you can answer the questions on a sheet of paper and just write it down. So the question that I'm going to ask you, and think of whatever comes to mind at first, that's what I want you to write down, right? Because that's going to help figure out what that limiting belief is. That's going to give you a clue. So the question is, what is stopping you from making more of an impact on the world right now? What is stopping you from making more of an impact on the world? You can put it in the chat, you can write it down yourself, whatever the first thing that comes to mind, write that down. A lot of organizations that I work with, and even individuals, some of the things that they say are, well, I don't have enough funding, right? Or I don't have, and okay, education is a good one. Like I don't have the degrees, you know, especially in sustainability. We know that, you know, there's so much knowledge to be had that we don't know everything. Access to capital, right? So where are the funds coming from? What are the things that I need to make an impact? What are those things that you think? Yeah, too many interests, limited time. Ooh, I struggle with that one too. Right. And so what I want you to do is ask yourself with these things, as far as like the funding, or maybe I need volunteers, or whatever that is it true in all instances? So if you're saying I cannot, or my impact on the world is limited because I don't have enough education, or I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough money coming in, is that true in all instances? Meaning, are there other organizations out there that are getting a lot of money, a ton of money? Are there other organizations that have volunteers? Are there other people that are out there that are young, or whatever they may be, and they don't have the education or the knowledge, right? But they're out there and they're doing stuff, right? And so is that true in all instances? And if it's not true in all instances, then that means that it doesn't have to be true for you either. And so what I want you to do is take that limiting belief and kind of switch it around, right? And turn it into something positive, meaning that you can say the opposite, or you can just create a positive statement from it. So it might be, oh, you know, money comes to me and my organization. Like there's money out there for my organization. There's money out there for my cause. There's people out there that will follow my cause and want to be involved, right? And so write a positive statement, and you can put that in the chat, whatever your positive statement is for that. And of course, that positive statement is going to serve as, it could serve as an affirmation that you say, but one great thing is that as you're working and you think of, oh my gosh, I don't have this money coming in, start to think that opposite statement, like, no, money is going to come to my organization, or money comes to my organization. And one really important thing to do behind that is not just say it, but believe it and take action toward it. So what is the action that you're going to take to combat that belief, right? Well, I'm going to spend an hour today and I'm going to look for grants, or I'm going to make a phone call to this other organization that I know that they're getting all this funding, and I'm going to ask them what they did, right? And I'm going to surround myself with these people or organizations or things that have what I'm trying to get, so that I can kind of dispel that limiting belief. So that's a tool that you can do for that. And I know we're getting a little slow on time, so we have one more breakout that we'll do. But first, I'm going to talk about vision, because we'll talk about that, and we'll do a breakout around vision, which is going to be really good because there's even more people. So vision is not only good for organizations, but looking at your vision is good for just an individual person too. Because when you have a great vision, that's when other people want to get along and get behind what you're doing, right? And a lot of times, I think there's a lot of misinformation around vision and what that is and how to make a vision statement and things like that. I've heard some people say, oh, it is, I've heard some people say that it's your vision is what it is once you won. Like, how does that look like? And I'm like, oh no, that just makes me cringe, right? Because it's not about, we're not necessarily trying to win something. We are making an impact on the world. And when we form companies, or when we have this vision of the impact that we want to make on the world, other people, we have to do it with other people, right? We want to be able to kind of take what we're doing and allow other people to make that same impact or similar impact. And so I'm going to give you some guidelines, and then we're going to do breakout groups to talk about what your vision is. And there may be some commonalities in this room too, which is great. So one thing, it has to be for something, right? And this is taken from Simon Sinek, Infinite Game. It's a book that you can read. But one thing, it has to be for something. So if I say, I want to alleviate poverty, that's kind of a negative connotation. It seems like a big thing, poverty, right? But if I say, I want to make sure that every Black woman has the resources that they need to feed their family, like, that sounds doable. And I like, even as an individual, no matter who I am, I feel like I could contribute to that goal. So you want to make it for something positive, right? People like the positivity, and inclusive. So kind of just what I was talking about is you're saying it in a way that anyone can contribute, whether you are, oh, I'm a teacher, or I'm a mother, or I'm a computer engineer, or I'm a government official. Anyone can kind of contribute to this. You're making it broad enough where anyone feels like they can do something. You're making it service oriented. So it's not like, oh, we're going to be the best organization. It's not about you, right? It's about the people that you are going to serve, or that you want to serve. It's resilient. So that means that no matter what happens with politics, no matter what happens with technology, no matter what happens with cultural shifts, it can stand strong. So for example, if I was an oil company and I said, I am the best at doing bringing fossil fuels to people, then right now you're going to be going out of business. Your stock is going to be going down. But if you say, hey, I'm providing energy to people, well, energy can be so many different things. It could be solar, it could be, all different types of things. So that's resilient, right? And then idealistic. So when I gave the example of making sure that all Black women have the resources that they need to feed their family, that sounds like a really big goal, but it somewhat sounds achievable too, if we just, work one step at a time. So it's idealistic. So what I want to know, or what you can answer in this breakout session, is what's your vision of an ideal world? What steps are you taking now? Because a lot of people are working in what your vision is, or that you're going to take to achieve this vision. And then how can you bring people along the way with you? So are there organizations that you want to partner with? Are there, how can you bring your community along with you? What are those action steps that you can take to bring people to your vision? And I'll put all this in the chat. And we're gonna do breakout rooms for 10 minutes, and I'll just do 2 people per room, or maybe 2 or 3 people per room. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so I'll put the information in the chat.
How many breakout rooms will there be?
There are 4 different breakout rooms. Do you, let's see. Oh, did you get your room, Judy?
No, I said not now because I thought there were other rooms. I'm sorry. I was going to say I want to go to room number 3.
Oh, yeah. No.
I'm sorry. Is it a way to put me in a room? I don't care which room I'm in. I don't know. I don't see the offer anymore. I've said not now. I missed the deal. Let's make
Yeah.
a deal. I was trying to
No,
pick
no one came to my room.
Yeah.
I'll come to your room if you
I
tell me.
was in one all alone.
Yeah, she's let me move y'all back to 1
Okay.
if I can figure out how to do that.
Or if you know how to just put me in a room, that's fine.
I don't know, Tammy or Maya, do you know, is there a way to put them in 1? Let's see.
Those little square, oh. Okay, you have been assigned to breakout room 1.
Okay, I'm going back.
Thank you.
See you ladies later.
All right, see you in a minute. All right, I think we have most people back from the breakout rooms. So yeah, so we have 4 minutes left for our session. So I encourage people to go back to the worksheet, to listen to the recording of the session. There's some really great stuff, and start to think about everything that you've done in this session is just a starting point. So it's just a draft. You can go back, you can add to it, you can take away, you can change things, but it's going to help it's going to help you to make more of an impact in whatever space that you're doing. And so please feel free in the chat. I'm going to put my email address. I'm also going to put a link that you can schedule a 15-minute meeting with me because I love talking about this stuff. I love meeting people. I already said that. So I'll put that in the chat, and feel free to drop your LinkedIn in the chat if you want, or whatever contact information you want in the chat. And if anyone wants to take this last time to share, or maybe something that you learned, or maybe some resources, whatever, feel free to unmute yourself and share or ask a question.
Thank you so much. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Well, I wanted to say thank you. You had me thinking of, I like the part about the action and, you know, putting your thoughts to use, because we always think about things, the negative, and switching it to the positive. And that's why I was taking notes, and I really appreciate that. You're very good at what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's all about action. That's all I'll say. So I always want to, I don't like going to things and then you don't have action steps afterwards. So just, that's an important part of it. Thank you. Anyone else?
Just want to say thank you too. You did a great job, and echoing what Brother Johnny said, you did an excellent job. You're good at what you do. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you.
I would like to say, this is Judy Gresham. I live in Atlanta. I'm a native of Tuskegee, Alabama, and I really enjoyed the little bit that I was able to catch. And I would like to get your information. Are you, I think I must have joined later than I thought because it's over before I got here. What was your information? Could you give your phone number or email really quickly? Because I never can get stuff off the chat. It disappears.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, oh, you know what? Let me share my screen because I have a screen with this information on it. So that's my email address. Hopefully you can see this. That's my email address. Just email me and it'll have I'll respond back to it. It'll have my phone number and everything on it. And then if you want to book a call, you can book that call, or we can have a longer call. It doesn't have to be 15 minutes. But yeah, just give me an email, reach out to me, and we can connect. I would love to connect with everyone.
Thank you. I enjoyed the session parts that I heard were very good, interesting. Glad to be with everybody.
Great. Yeah, there's so much more to share. It's just like a snippet that you can do in an hour, but.
Sister, this is Abena. I just want to thank you for holding this space for us. It's always a sacred time when we can come together and not just have information, but that we can engage and connect with one another as we did in the breakout sessions. And it's like you're adding the nuts and bolts to the work, and that's very important because we talk a lot and we're good at that, but to talk about some action steps is more important, because that really is what separates the women from the girls, the men from the boys, is putting some action steps and formulating plans and not only hashing out ideas but activating the ideas. So I want to sincerely thank you for putting that thought and re-energizing that thought in our minds. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I feel like the best part of some of these sessions are when you get to connect with each other. So, and we all need to connect, right, to achieve what we're doing. There's so many commonalities you don't even realize it, who you're sitting in the room with, right?
Do you offer workshops, or do you have a group or talk, sister circle, or any kind of circles? Or
not yet. I probably will starting next year. Now I do workshops all the time. So if I can definitely send that information out and share it with the community. And I do want to put together some type of, group that we're talking to each other about a lot of these things. So
that would be awesome.
Okay. I know we're at the end of our time, so please connect.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Kamilah. And once again, we'd like to thank our committee of volunteers and all of our sponsors. We encourage all of our attendees to join our network and engage in the Mighty Network app for chats and discussions. And feel free to join our next panel at 3:30 and our Q&A at 6 tonight. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.